Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Pardon My Vlog for the 17th of July. Yes. So, what are we talking about today? I have my list here. Right. So, cool news with New Horizon finally reaching Pluto after all these years. Really interesting stuff. So I thought to talk about that today. A little bit of background on Pluto first, though. So, as you may or may not know, Pluto was the first trans-Neptunian object found. I'm sure we've all read the Wikipedia page. This was hypothesized due to the strange movement of Neptune. So, gravitational models suggested there was a large body out beyond Neptune. So, Percival Lowell, in 1906, built the Lowell Observatory to search for, as he called it, Planet X. And this object he searched for a very long time, until his death in 1916. Sadly not knowing he'd actually captured 2 images the previous year. But these weren't recognised until many years later. But the search continued at the observatory until a young astronomer by the name of Clyde Tombaugh took over in 1929, and he took several photos in 1930 that captured the images and were verified by the Harvard College Observatory. So that places the discovery with him, though it's generally credited to Lowell because he did take the first photos, and he paid for everything. So it should be noted, at the time of the discovery, given the technologies available, the mass of Pluto was estimated at the same as Earth's, and it sort of steadily decreased ever since then. Now, the name Pluto is actually a predecessor to Hades. Pluto was an early name for the Greek god of the underworld. Cool little fact. But New Horizon, finally seen it, nice photos, and we've gone from, in 1931, the estimated mass of one Earth to now 1/455 Earths. So, itty bitty. We know of 5 satellites for Pluto: Charon, Styx, Nix, Cerberus, and Hydra. And Nix and Hydra are very strange. They're sort of ovoid in shape, which I think is pretty cool. Though in 2006, it was suggested to the International Astronomical Body to reclassify the Pluto-Charon system as a binary planet system instead of a planet-satellite system due to the nature of their orbit. They're tidally locked and actually orbit each other, but this proposal has since been dropped. But I think that's a very interesting... I like the concept of binary planets. I think that's a really cool idea. But I'm a sci-fi writer, so that's just me being me. So we've got some really cool new photos of Pluto, which interesting. It's actually got an ice layer, which is nice. Now, Pluto is actually a planet with an atmosphere at some parts of the year, because of the way Pluto's orbit works. It's sort of long elliptical orbit. So when it gets close to the Sun, the ice melts and sublimes into an atmosphere. It's got a thin atmosphere, I think it's tiny, tiny atmosphere, very thin. But then it gets away from the Earth and it freezes down again. There are images of ice mountains and such. Really interesting stuff coming out of this New Horizon thing. And weirdly, I recently wrote a short story set in the Pluto system, as I think it's cool to call it, about a sort of space feudal lord who ruled the Pluto system. He was the Duke of Pluto. His title was the Duke of the Outer Dark. That story's getting a bit too long, though. I haven't finished it. I've been working on it. This New Horizon stuff really energised me on writing it, which has been really nice. I'll talk more about that another day. But yeah, I thought it was cool to talk about that. That sort of... We've now got photographs of one of the furthest objects in our solar system. A few years ago, or was it last year or the year before? I forget. Voyager made it outside the solar system. So space-wise, we're sort of in an interesting time. I suppose sort of one last thing on Pluto, I should address the dwarf planet thing. Those who protested, That's stupid. It's a dwarf planet. Maybe it's because, it was the first planet discovered by an American. Yeah, that's just really stupid. I mean, it's just putting it in a classification that it fits better. We have dwarf planets, we have rocky planets, we have hot gas giants, cold gas giants, a couple of other designations we don't have within the solar system. I think it just makes sense. And I'm sure we'll have more classifications in the world as we, explore the universe more. I'd just like to see more human space travel. But that's me, I'm a sci-fi writer. I want my FTL drives. I know they're scientifically impossible at the moment. Anyway, part 2. So I've been reading a lot of pulp novels of late, taking a break from the harder stuff. And also, so when I say pulp novel, I mean a cheap novel from 1880 to, let's say, 1940. To maybe 50. But pulp characters carry on, I suppose you could call them post-pulp? Would that be fair to call them? Maybe. So, pulp characters are sort of a very specific breed. The pulp hero, shall we say. Now, there are certain characters who've become an outgrowth of the pulp style. Batman is one of these. But, though he still retains the classic pulp edge in his character origin. Now, I was wondering, how would the origins of these characters change today? How would we write them today compared to how they were then? Because these characters all conform to a mould. So they were normally, they're almost always white men. Let's start with that. Depending on the genre, there'd be very specific genres. So let's start with the adventure genre, because I was reading some Edgar Rice Burroughs recently. His Casbah trilogy, very enjoyed that a lot. I like Burroughs as a writer. I know the film got a lot of crap, so I enjoyed it. Princess of Mars, that series, the Bassoon series, brilliant series, lots of fun. So, but the Casbah trilogy is a good example of the adventure thing, because it has a number of characters who are archetypal of this. So, first book has the character Bowen J. Tyler. Now, Tyler's father's an industrialist. They own shipyards and built and designed submarines. He's heavily educated, but he's also very manly. He's an excellent shot with a rifle and that kind of thing. Though he's not involved with the war. He has his Airedale Terrier, Nobbs. Best character in the series. But I love dogs. And he's sort of rugged and tough and manly, but also smart. He has an interest in paleontology, which sort of sets him up for the series. But he's a natural leader, So he's that kind of upper-class gentleman adventurer, almost. He's described as an American gentleman. Now, in the second book, it revolves around Tom Billings, Bowen Tyler's secretary, who he also went to college with. Now, Billings is perhaps closer to perhaps a Western hero, because he's described as an Iowan cowpuncher, who through dint of his extreme intellect, he was found by Tyler, educated, went to college with him, and is incredibly loyal to this man. Also, the first novel contains a lot more characters, and is sort of more about leadership, whereas this is more of a lone survival deal. Because Billings is alone. Well, he has his female guide, Agile, who he's constantly not in love with. Constantly not in love with until the end of the book. Though he's madly in love. The place of women in these novels is another discussion. But he's sort of an Iowan cowpuncher, sort of rough, tough guy, trains and breaks a stallion in a day. Once again, it's an excellent shot. And in the third book, you have Lieutenant Bradley, who's a British officer, British naval officer, of the gentry from an estate. Very improper. Doesn't care about his own life. Well, that's putting it wrong. More concerned about his men and their future survival than his own immediate dangers. So he's brave in that regard. He's sort of also described as very cool and logical thinking. He's sort of always worrying about wasting ammunition. once again, though this is actually the first active military man, so, but he's an excellent shot. Though not as good as his feats of marksmanship aren't as good as Billings. There's a moment in the second book where Billings just shoots a spear out of the air. It's actually sort of quite cocky with his pistol, which is quite interesting. Yeah, but so two of these characters are gentry, and one of them is a working class person brought up to the level of gentry. Then let's compare that to, say, the works of Lovecraft. The characters in that are once again educated, almost all of them having gone to college or working for a college. The somewhat infamous Miskatonic University is often mentioned, and scholars there. I recently read Shadow over Innsmouth. The main character there is someone who's just finished his degree and is doing a sort of tour of New England. He sort of a wealthy American socialite almost. And this is fairly standard for these kind of novels, to have this kind of upper-class, wealthy, well-educated individual who somewhat talks down to everyone. I'll give in some other examples of pulp characters just to fill in. For film and comic books, I mean, one of the best examples of a pulp character is Flash Gordon. You know, all-American hero. Flash Gordon, saviour of the universe. He's a star football player, son of a senator. He has a hobby of flying aircraft. Once again, excellent marksman. I think he's quarterback for one of the major teams. I forget which one. But you see, he's sort of upper class, physically active, but mentally active as well. Another example, though doesn't fit into the gentry role, but more into the scholarly role, is Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones is a straight pulp hero. Lucas and Spielberg love pulp stuff. So, Indiana Jones, he's physically active, mentally active. He comes from a scholarly background and is a scholar himself. That seem to be the sort of main factors of a pulp hero. The physical aptitude and the mental aptitude, and usually from an upper-class setting. Speaking sociologically, that's generally what you need to have those two things. I suppose the best example that everyone knows is Batman. Batman is a straight pulp hero. He fills all of these criteria. He is a multi-millionaire / billionaire. He holds multiple degrees and is a ninja. The strange thing about pulp heroes is their charisma and their mass appeal. Pulp novels and books and stories, whatever, were massively popular. Massively. You know, to the point of derision, they were that popular. You know, the mainstream didn't like them because they were too good. So, how would we write that today? I mean, it seems to me that popular characters and common characters skew younger now and less intellectual. So, this is just a general question. Where would you place a modern pulp character? I think you'd have to make them a lot more flawed. Wouldn't actually suit the pace of a pulp novel. Pulp novels are very fast-paced, always something happening, always something being shot. Yeah, that's really all I have to say on it. I'm just interested because I think I might challenge myself to try and write a modern pulp character. So yes, thank you for listening to my ramblings. See you all when I see you. Goodbye.